Vamos iniciar agora o momento das palestras. Nosso primeiro tema se chama Trabalhando na Velocidade do Hidrogênio. Conheçam o nosso palestrante.
Bom dia a todos. Thank you, Fiec, for inviting me to be here today. It's a very special moment for me. I would like to see the first slide come up. Okay. It's still early in the morning, guys. We're all getting used to the day. But I do feel it's very special being here. Do you know the feeling when you are exactly in the right place at the right moment? Do you know that feeling? Yeah. And that's the feeling I get when I'm here. And that's the feeling I sense you are having too. Because we are in the middle of something great, right? And we started it 2.5 years ago, and look how fast everything moved on. It's amazing. It really moves me. I remember Duna saying yesterday, she was really a bit emotional. Monica Saraiva was also a bit emotional yesterday, but it is a big thing we're doing. So what I'm going to do with you today is talk a little bit about that Port of Rotterdam, because we're working with you to make this happen and hope to contribute. But I'm also going to look at some other things happening here quickly. And by the way, I'm not alone here from Rotterdam. I brought my colleague Wouter Demenent, who is in the audience, who does a terrific job building a pipeline system into Germany from our port, which I will talk about a little bit as well. As for me, I'm Program Manager, Hydrogen Corridors, connecting with projects in a number of regions in the world, and especially glad I'm here today. It's time. We're moving, things are changing. We still have 10 years remaining to meet climate targets. 66 countries have signed up and said, we're going to achieve this. And our countries are there with them, right? 3 centers of demand in the world. We've seen pictures like this already yesterday. But the US, Europe, and Asia are going to want to import hydrogen from countries such as yours, who have the great fortune to be able to potentially produce your own energy for your own use, but also to export it to countries who need it. So that's great. You know, you already have all this green electricity. Already 85% is green, and you're building and building on that and creating more resources still. And you know that Bloomberg said you are going to be among the cheapest, the most competitive. Lucky guys, you. And we look at Pissing and we think, ooh, we were lucky too, to work with the state of Sierra and be part of this port you have here, which we are also a little bit proud of, I have to say, and people working there, working so hard and being so professional and achieving so much in such a short time. It really moves me, as I said. You're in the middle of this, being able to export to the US, to Europe and to Asia. But before I go on about all the opportunities you have here, because you've heard a lot about that yesterday, and I do truly believe they are going to happen, but I also want to tell you a little bit about Port of Rotterdam, because not all of you might be familiar with it. So it's a port that is about 40 to 45 kilometers long. We import 13% of the energy that comes into Europe. It comes into Europe via our port, and we reach about 40% of industrial demand. We are a port that doesn't only work for the Netherlands. The Netherlands are only 200 by 300 kilometers. It's really tiny. But Europe is slightly bigger, and we reach out into Europe, and we transport the energy, the coal, the oil, the gas we now receive, the methanol, the ammonia we now receive, the grey, into Germany and Belgium, north of France, over the waterways, by rail and by truck. It's a very refined distribution system. So we're able to reach about 300 to 500 million consumers within 24 hours. And as I said, we reach the major industries with the energy supplies we bring. The coal, the gas, the diesel, the oil. But that's changing, right? Because we are now a big energy port for the old-fashioned stuff, and we're going to be a big energy port. We are already moving into that for the new stuff. If you look at our port in relation with demand, there's an expectation that Europe alone, so I'll focus on Europe this time, will need about 60 million tons of hydrogen by 2050 to fulfill the needs there. Industrial, consumers, transport, logistics, everything. So 60 million tons by 2050. And we, as a port, we say we need to import about 20 million tons of that to give the same services to our hinterland customers as we did before. And when I say we, and this is especially relevant for CFA, of course, when I say we, I mean there's 3,000 companies working in our port. About 150 involved in energy, like Shell, BP, all these names you know, the energy companies, Linde, Air Products, Air Liquide, that kind of company, they're all in our port. And they work on this. We provide the substructure. We provide safe navigation, efficiency, and we provide the territory and the facilities, the central facilities. If you look at the right-hand side picture, you can see these really red-hot areas of demand, and you can see the Netherlands, which is, of course, orange, obviously. And you see the red area right next to it, which is North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. And this is where we bring most of our product. And when I say we, again, I mean the clients in our port, all those professional companies who do the real work for us. This red-hot area, if you look at that red-hot area, and then you look at the Netherlands, and then you look at demand expectations, I have to say that picture on the right-hand side, that yellow sail, that one, well, never mind, you can see what I mean. That has changed in the last few months. And because it used to look different. It used to look different. It used to look like this. Can you see the difference? There you go. Boom. It used to look like this, where we thought, if you look at the timeline underneath that sort of yellow triangle, 2020, 2030, 2040, 2050, right? And you can see there's a start of hydrogen market with grey hydrogen. And you can see there's blue hydrogen being produced to add to that. And by 2030, our expectations were that the market would have been developed for it. And then the market starts and it goes off like a hockey stick in the graph. Yeah? But a lot of things changed. First of all, 2 years ago already, when we started connecting with projects everywhere and we were listening to what was happening in the European Union policy-wise, there were such stringent policies being applied, like the RED, the Renewable Energy Directive, where 50% of hydrogen used in certain industries had to be green by 2030. There's now only 2% of green hydrogen of the total production in the world. So how are you going to get green hydrogen if it isn't produced faster, right? So that's the challenge here. You can see we also we calculated for Germany and the Netherlands because that's our hinterland, the main hinterland. And if you now look at this new demand, you can see that in 2030 we are already looking at importing 4 million tons. It's very important, by the way, that when I say hydrogen, I don't mean only hydrogen. I mean the equivalent of millions of tons of hydrogen, which could be methanol, which could be ammonia, which could be LOHCs, which could be liquefied hydrogen, but I mean the equivalent. And if you look at how that pans out, I'm going to skip this because I see I don't have a lot of time left, but these are companies that are going to help, and I'm not going to skip it. I have to do them some honor. These companies are among the companies that are going to help us out to achieve those 4 million tons. But they're not the only ones. We're connecting to many more, and anyone is welcome to add their logo to our site if they want to, I would say. where is it going to go? It's going to go into that industrial end use, the chemical industry, steel industry, energy fuels. That's the Northwest European demand, an additional 500,000 tons or 5 million tons total. I think that's incorrect, but never mind. So mobility, residential, there's a lot of demand in Europe developing. We've done a lot of analysis on that, and it's only increasing. And of course, the war in Ukraine was mentioned, and that's accelerating it to a great extent, of course. So there's the expected demand, and it's going into that type of industry. And this is what we've been preparing to do to receive these volumes. And it's going a lot faster than we were thinking in the beginning, but we're lucky because we started preparing already in 2013, and this vision, this plan that I'm showing now, was developed in 2016. It shows a central access backbone, open access backbone pipeline throughout the port for all the industries to connect with, to get their green hydrogen from. That's a big project. But that pipeline is also going to connect to the Dutch national gas grid at some point, but also to something called the Delta Corridor.
Sorry, Lady Mônica. I need to speak sometime. Pessoal, só ressaltando, desculpa, quem quiser fazer alguma pergunta para a senhora Mônica, nós temos o QR Code. Vocês podem estar direcionando a câmera de vocês para o QR Code ou mandar via WhatsApp. Tá? Esse seria o recado. Sorry. Thank you.
I'm still...
Okay.
Oh, no. But I have no slides. Oh, okay. Well, I would like to continue, but can I have my slides back, please? There you go. Guys, it's still early day, huh? This is the Delta Corridor. My colleague Wouter, he is working on that with a team, but he's responsible to realize this. And it connects to all the major industries, as you can see in Belgium, Germany, and especially, of course, in the Netherlands. In the port of Rotterdam, we already use 500,000 tons of hydrogen. So that's a lot. But it's grey, so we need to change it to blue, and we need to change it to green. The demand is seriously happening. I know everybody is concerned about offtake. It will come. It's a new market. Nobody signs for new things fast, but it will happen. We, of course, also have the truck system, the rail, the barges, 100,000 inland ships going into all these areas of demand. So that's all happening already. In the first volumes, we'll deal with that way. And the new volumes will be large volumes via the corridor into Germany, into the industrial demand areas. If you add everything up and look at the whole picture of this, there's the demand that's going to be 4 million tons of hydrogen already in 2030. And we need to import, 4.6 actually, but we think we can produce 0.6 ourselves locally in our own electrolyzer cluster, and everything else has to come from you and others. All those logos, right? If you look at the weight, the relative weight, there's a little picture here which translates the 20 million tons of hydrogen into what it would be if it were ammonia, or if it were methanol, or if it were an LOHC. And it also shows how it would look in terms of the weight of crude oil. So we're looking at serious volumes here. And our timetable shows that we have been working on this with a large team, almost 50 people now. A lot of people working on this because it's huge. It's a big project for us to transition our port into a totally green port, together with the port community who have to actually do it. They lease plots. They have to change the plots of lands they use, right? So 2024, first electrolyzer turned on in our cluster, 200 megawatts. Remember, the first biggest electrolyzer 2 years ago was 20 in Bécancour, Canada. There's now one that is 100, I think, in China. So this one is going to be 200. And this is the speed things are going. The backbone, 2024, 2025 maybe. And also something quite sensational, I think. We will have a liquid hydrogen import terminal that's going to be built in 2026 and hopefully be operational in 2027, linking us to a Portuguese port that will have an export terminal for that. And that's a project we've been doing. And of course, that's also quite interesting, because if we receive the final product as liquid, We don't have to crack it. We don't have to do anything using energy to have a product that could be immediately put to use. So that's also interesting for an energy-poor country like ours. So that's really it. This is what it looks like if it's not in a little picture that someone drew. Lots of companies, over 3,000, wanting to connect with you. And just one thing more. 2 years ago, we had an ammonia terminal, and of course we do receive methanol, and we do receive all kinds of things, but we have had so many announcements of new terminals that want to do ammonia, that want to do green, the old OCI terminal is expanding because they say, hey, there's so much more ammonia now, we're going to receive more. So what I'm trying to bring across is the whole port community, our CFE, is transitioning, is saying, hey, give us your product, we will receive it, we will bring it to the customers we have in the hinterland, and it's all happening. So whatever your hesitations might be here to accelerate and scale up, forget about them. We need the product, and it's going to happen, and we can receive it already 2024, 2025, 2026, we're ready. Now, I'm going to say obrigada.
Thank you very much.
The first question, Monica, is what is the expectation in terms of the production of hydrogen from Ceará? What's the expectation for the production of hydrogen from Ceará?
Forgot I had to do questions immediately. Still early day. Yeah. Okay, the question is, what is the expectation of production in Ceará? Well, I can only talk about Pecém, because I know what's happening in Pecém. And what we're hoping to achieve was already presented by Duna yesterday, but we're hoping to achieve about 8 to 11 million tons by 2032. And that's the real big picture. But maybe Duna wants to say something on that as well.
I was just saying, Monica, that you mentioned the ammonia numbers, so I'm just going to talk about hydrogen.
Well, the production number, expectation for production in Ceará, I think that was the question. I presented yesterday a number that we have, 1.3 million tons of hydrogen in 2030. So when we talk about ammonia, we estimate something around 7 million tons of ammonia.
Thank you.
Obrigada, Duna. Muito obrigada, Duna.
Ok.
Certo. Então.
Finalizamos então aqui.
Okay, so we don't have any further questions. Yeah, we have another question?
Pode direcionar.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Bom dia.
Good morning, bom dia. I'm the journalist from Diário do Nordeste. I'm very, very interested for a long time now about what you guys are doing in Rotterdam and about what Duna is doing here in Pecém. And my curiosity is about the physical port in Pecém. What kind of expansion, what kind of construction is necessary? In Pecém, in the port, it's an offshore port that could grow anywhere. There's a lot of space. So if you could, or perhaps even Duna could answer that.
We'll give it to Duna because she is actually working on this. All I want to say about it is I've visited the port yesterday, and you know what struck me? It was beautifully located. It was very well cared for. It was clean. There's a lot of things happening in that port, and everything is so clean and organized. And there's space to develop, as you say. So I'll leave Duna to tell you a little bit more about that.
Okay, thank you.
Muito obrigada.
Nice to meet you here.
É muito bom tê-la aqui conosco. Muito obrigada pela participação.